In a world of mediocrity and dad jokes, one podcast is trying to change the game and bring humor to an ancient and secretive fraternity. You are about to witness the lighter side of Freemasonry through the eyes of modern Masons. Prepare yourself for the action. Prepare yourself for the adventure. And prepare yourself for another episode of Level With Us, recorded live in front of a studio audience.
Hello, and welcome to Level With Us, a podcast that takes a lighthearted look at Freemasonry, what goes on in the Masonic Center, and other topics that interest us. I'm the music man, Brother Ron Wright, and joining me at the BlueDyer Distilling Company for this show is Stitch. What's going on, man?
What's going on, you guys?
West Side, what's up, man?
Not much. What's going on?
DJ Spike, what's up?
DJ Spike.
Nothing, man. It's a great day. It's happy to be here and sample some of these fantastic drinks.
Hollywood, what's going on, man?
Always up
What's
to no
up,
good.
brother?
Big Sexy in the house, what's up?
What's up, brothers?
Bear, what's going on, man?
How's it going, brothers?
All right, well, now that the gang's all introduced, let's do the show.
All right, let's discuss what's gone on in the last few weeks since we recorded our last
The
one.
fact that we forgot about West Side.
Did we? No, we talked about West Side.
got West Side
We
in
just
there.
stepped over his lines as usual. But so since the last one, we've been working on these technical issues, trying to get our new equipment running. The last episode, as most of us know, Craig was nothing more than an audience member, but at least he looks like he's ready to perform tonight.
He's engaged.
Hollywood.
But I'm
And,
so glad
that's
he doesn't
right.
have his
I'm
mental
here.
cup.
And while episode 3 is here at BlueDyer Distillery in Waldorf, Maryland, we're very excited about it.
Where no metal cups are allowed.
Our next episode is going to be at Patuxent Brewery, which is maybe 200 yards down the street
Nice.
from here. So we have a
Scooping
theme.
it,
We have a
toot
theme.
away.
We have a theme going
Well,
here.
being at BlueDyer's, Bear's not as angry this time because he's a little. Get some
Little
drinks
one
out.
yellow.
Not as
Look at
angry
that! Look at
as
that
last.
smile he's got on his face tonight.
And this little Irish hot.
So this
Tis a
past
nice hat.
this past
I'm a
weekend.
little wee man.
So this past weekend, I spent the weekend glamping with the Jove's daughters
that
in Maryland.
Hey, I saw that picture. That's not camping.
Glamping.
That's what he said, glamping.
You were in a building.
It's called glamping.
Glamour
Glamping.
camping.
He made friends with the stuffed fox.
Remember Air Force? I don't like outdoors.
Oh, God.
So anyway, what we did was we were out there and it was a leadership weekend for Maryland and Delaware, which is Delmar, Jove's daughters now. We had about 100 people there, and the young ladies learned everything about from self-defense, basic car maintenance, interviewing and resumes, first aid, and some other fun classes they had a good time with.
Oh, that's awesome.
So what you're saying is that Jove's daughters became even more lethal.
Yes. A lot of the you guys just seen them. They were,
Brass knuckles and switchblades.
Don't mess with them.
but the dads. We spend the weekend, and we had Brother Joe from our lodge and Brother Jason from our lodge. We spent the weekend cooking. And then they had a mock meeting that we had to put on for the girls to show the adults putting on a meeting, but we had to do things wrong, so the girls could pick out what they were doing, what they do sometimes in meetings. So it was a stretch for me. They asked me to be disruptive, and I had
No way.
Imagine that.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
so I'm there.
How were you able to pull that one off?
It was amazing, but I got kicked out of the meeting within 5 minutes. It was,
Shocker.
And
Record
the
time.
And the funny thing is now the past Grandmaster, Gus Vorblis, he was the one who was orchestrating the event that happened Saturday night. But once I got kicked out, I bumped into the Grandmaster, our current Grandmaster, Richard Nagel. And he comes up to me and he goes, so I heard you got kicked out of the meeting. I was like, yes, sir. He goes, well, give me your dues card. Like that, I was like, and I said to him, I was like, and I said, sir, you can have it, but unfortunately, you're in charge of St. Columba Lodge. And he's like, never mind, keep it. So,
He wants no part of running the DJ.
Well, he technically is anyway.
We are naked
yeah, well, he's the
knuckleheads.
boss. He's the boss man. But let me tell you, he does a great job. He supports all the youth groups, and by him being there, he shows the Masons that we should be supporting the youth groups. He's always
Right.
leading the way, whether it be with the Digable, the Rainbow, or the Jove's Daughters. They are. I mean, realistically, but he does a great job. He really has been doing wonderful. And then at that night, past Grandmaster Gus Vorblis, he led they had a what they call a low veil initiation at night. It was kind of cool, and we actually initiated a new girl into our Bethel.
That's awesome.
Yay.
One of the guys from
Growing.
our lodge, Jason, his daughter was initiated, Abby, and she had a great time. My daughter was one of the main people as a senior princess, and she nailed her lines.
The lead mean girl.
After a while, because she didn't nail the, But it's a lot of words, and when you watch these young girls and all the stuff they have to do to memorize, it's really impressive. And it makes me go to you guys. If you screw up at the next meeting, you better know your lines there, brother, junior deacon.
In the Welsh.
Oh, that's the
Welsh.
senior deacon.
But anyway, but no, it was good to see the Grand Master and set the standards, and, working with the youth. But yeah, by the time we got home Sunday afternoon, man, we were tired. The kids were passed out, and I passed out early, and I slept. I must have got a good 10 hours of sleep before I had to go to work on Monday. It felt good though.
It's a good event. That's a good event. I know the Jobs we have an event coming up this week too. We got a box at the Blue Crabs Stadium, so we will be holding a Joby's event there.
You're holding out on us.
Yeah. You're invited. Just wait at the ticket booth for me. I'll be there.
I'll be
sometime.
right there.
Yeah, if we have any extra tickets, but it is for the Bethel first. The girls have first dibs on that skybox. at Blue
Ladies
Crab Stadium.
first.
But so with that, we're going to get into our first segment live,
Well,
recorded live on tape at BlueDyer Distillery.
Well, we talked about the girls, but don't we have
Yeah,
a new
Well,
DeMolay
that's
chapter
true.
coming
You know
up?
what? I apologize. So
Yeah, say
we're,
sorry.
We're in the process of rebuilding our DeMolay chapter, the Chesapeake chapter of the DeMolay. We have some young men that are ready to join and lead and become leaders in the future. And we have one of
that
our
knowledge, Big
one of our
Sexy.
past
What's going on?
masters, Reggie Ida, is going to be one of the leaders, and our very own Big Sexy,
Big
who is a
Sexy.
former DeMolay, he is going to be one of the leaders to set it up. You got anything
The
to say
biggest DeMolay.
He's been in.
I'm glad to see DeMolay coming back. I mean, if you don't know what DeMolay is basically the boys' youth organization. You can be a DeMolay if you're between the ages of 12 and 21. Between the ages of 9 and 11, you can be what's called a squire, and that's like a squire. A squire is basically like a trainee. They can come, they can hang out with the older DeMolays. They get taught, certain lessons, and then when you age to 12, you can become a full DeMolay.
Well, you've been in Masonry long enough. I'm sure you're a founding member of the original DeMolay.
Yeah, I just
turned 100 years this year.
They just turned 100 years this year.
No, we're talking about you.
And, I received my 20-year certificate yesterday.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But
What's
he's not a
crazy is
day
he's only
over 15.
21. He's only 21. He got his 20-year certificate.
So DeMolay, the good things about the DeMolay chapter, and this really hits home for me because I learned a lot of my skills that I use in my adult life and my Blue Lodge life through DeMolay. I mean, you develop key life skills such as public speaking, fundraising, event planning, and leadership. There's all kinds of things that you can do as DeMolays. They have special awards for senior DeMolays, and the senior DeMolays are DeMolays that age out at 21. So for DeMolays that are age 17 and older, you can become a Chevalier. I'm a Chevalier.
Shots
Reggie
fired.
Ida's a Chevalier. These aren't something that you can apply to or ask for. The person has to be nominated for the award, and they can't know about it. Reggie is also a Legion of Honor. That's for people 25 and older. That's also something that you can't apply for. You have to earn that.
So you'll get that next
I don't want to
year.
interrupt you,
Yeah.
but Craig just ordered another one of those drinks.
No, I ordered
Appletini.
The Smurf squirts.
old fashioned.
Oh, sure you did.
Oh, it's about time you got a big boy
But
drink.
You know what? With that, let's jump into our first segment, and we're going to talk about what morals or values have we learned or improved on since becoming a Mason, and how have we improved from Masonry. Now, one of the main things when they talk about the tenets of Masonry, they say Freemasons believe in honor, and that a man has a responsibility to behave honorably in everything he does. Freemasonry teaches its members the principles in personal decency and personal responsibility. Now, while we're having a good time here, because we try to be professional and we try to be do a lot of work in the
Emphasis
community.
on trying.
We're still guys, and we like to have a good time, and we like to cut it up, and that's what we're trying to show, that outside the lodge, while real Masonry happens outside of Lodge, we still like to have a lot of fun. But I'd like to hear from some of the guys on, for me, what I will always say is one of the things that we learn is I'm a lot calmer than I used to be. Growing up in the city, I was a little crazy. But a good example is what happened recently when I was giving tickets to a Yankees-Orioles game just a few weeks ago, and the Yankees won 14-2, by the way, best team ever. And 27 World Series. Let's just talk about that.
Wah wah.
That's when there was like 3 teams.
My daughter and I were there. We're wearing our Yankee jerseys. We're all happy. And these 3 guys who had been drinking behind us dropped a hot dog on us full of mustard. It went all over us.
Your jerseys were white.
And the jerseys, they're Yankee jerseys, so they're white. So my daughter stands up, and she's mad. And I stand up. Now, if this was about, 8-9 years ago, before I was a Mason, I would have throat punched the guy. But nowadays, the New Yorker would have come out, but I'm a lot calmer nowadays. So I thought about it for a second. I'm like, the guy didn't do it on purpose. It's not like he threw his hot dog and mustard on us. So I sent my daughter to go wash her jerseys. I talked to the guy calmly, and I said, hey, was it an accident? He's like, yes. I go, then we're good. He apologized. It was good. We shook hands. He bought us, a soda. Everything was fine. But without what I've learned through Masonry in the last few years, I probably would have gotten into a fight. But I thought about it. I've learned to think about my actions before I do them, because sometimes your training comes in from the military, or your street training comes in from where you grew up, and you want to just act a fool. But I didn't for the first time, and I was very proud of myself.
Street lessons where you grew up?
Yeah, the street lessons were, if I didn't learn how to fight, I got
He went from downtown
dropped.
New York to upstate New York. You so classy.
You got dropped. But, and then, another thing we learned is in my professional life, and many of you guys feel the same way, so we work a lot of stuff on Robert's Rules of Order. So what I've learned is to be, during meetings, back in the past, someone would get up and they would say something that was completely wrong. And I'd be like, I would just stand up and say something like, you're wrong. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. But nowadays, I quietly sit there, I take notes, I let them finish, because in our lodge meetings, we have to let someone finish talking. If you jump up and start screaming at someone, you break protocol in a lodge, and it's not right.
You don't admonish in public. You take them to the side.
Exactly. So I've learned to, if someone's wrong, kind of explain them the errors of their ways, or not attack them. And it's really helped me in my professional career, because I'm much calmer at work, and it's helped me, excel.
In the Welsh.
What about you, Westside?
My 2 big ones are I started thinking of others. Everyone has that little selfish streak, so Masonry's actually helped me kind of start to temper that, especially at home, where I do worry and wonder what's going on with my wives and kids before myself. So that's a big one. And then the other one is learning to be a listener, not so much realizing you don't have to solve the problem. Sometimes people just want to tell you about their problems.
Empathy.
They're not looking for you to solve it. They just need you to listen. And that was a hard thing for me to learn, because I think at my core, I'm a fixer. If someone tells me something, I want to figure out how to fix it.
Right.
And I had to learn it's helped me learn that that's not always the case. They don't want a solution. They just want to get the problem off their chest.
Right.
It's true. It's true. A lot of times people do. They just want to call you up and they just want to, talk for a minute, but they know what the problem is in the heart.
Yeah.
But they just want to get it out.
And it's hard.
They work
hard.
through it on their own.
It's hard to not offer a solution. It really is.
And what I will remind everyone that might be listening, the 5 people listening to this podcast, 3 years from now,
In the 4 countries.
The main thing is that we are recording inside of a distillery, so there's background noise, but it's an active distillery, so it's not super quiet like we're used to. But it makes it a little more fun because we're in a different environment. It's kind of interesting.
They are open now.
That's what happens when we go on the road.
How about you, Big Sexy?
So, I really started learning my skills in DMLA, like I said, but more so over the memorizing of the ritual. That was a big thing that I had trouble with when I was younger. And then I got into the lodge and started doing officers' positions, and it really came to me. And I take that from lodge, and I'm a professional chef, so I have to memorize a Rolodex of recipes. So I use that every day.
So it really helped your work ethic and your public speaking.
It really did.
Nice. What about Hollywood?
Yeah.
So a couple things is same thing. Memorization is a big one, and it helped me with work. I'm a firefighter. I have to memorize running routes and 100 blocks and short streets. It sounds
You just
might
got-
sound Latin to some of y'all, but
The hose, the water comes out one end though. That's all you
well,
remember.
no, I'm
It
on
has
a ladder
pressure
truck,
to it.
so we just throw ladders and break doors. I get to destroy things. It's a lot of fun.
When are you going to start memorizing ritual? I'd love to hear that.
Shots fired.
Huh, thanks.
Shots fired.
And the other one is patience. I have a real bad problem with road rage. When people cut me off, when people do things, and especially when I'm on my motorcycle.
I did that to you intentionally.
So when people cut me off on my bike, I get real frustrated. And sometimes I've done some non-Christian things in response. And I have a Masonic emblem on the back of my bike along with a cross. And because of that, I have to stop and think about my actions. Am I portraying my beliefs by my responses to other people?
Are you living up to your obligations?
Yeah.
That's another thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Music man, how about you?
So what I'd say is in my life, I tend to watch those around me, and when I notice something negative or how that affects others, I evaluate myself and try to eliminate those
Check
things.
yourself, son.
On the other hand, when I look around and see
Before you
positive
wreck yourself.
impacts, when I see positive impacts, I try to also emulate and adopt those. But in terms of Masonry, I would say brotherhood, witnessing what a stand-up brother looks like, what he does, how he's a gentleman to those around him, and that he's attentive to others around him, and he's willing to listen rather than quick to talk, and that's kind of what some of the other guys were saying.
Why are you making eye contact with me?
Who's he
Said you
talking
were
about?
Listening. I'm great. Also, a Mason carries himself as a professional, but doesn't take himself too seriously, which I
There
think
you
is
go.
really cool. Something that we as a lodge in St. Columba really
Yeah.
take heart in that. He's always aware of the positive impact he can have on others and those around him. And he's always ready to assist his brothers in his community when he's called upon and sees a need.
See,
Those are things I've always...
What I like off that is it like we've been teaching ourselves, and we go back to honor, is we hold ourselves to a higher honor now,
Right.
as far as what we expect of ourselves, and so much so that my brothers I know hold me to a higher standard also, but not to the fact where like if maybe I do something wrong, you're not going to admonish me, but you'll be there to help me get back on my path.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's big, is to know that not just the honor in yourself, but that you can get on. You know, your brother's there to help you walk honorably also.
Yeah, and I'd
without
add-
judgment.
And I'd add to that, you know, those listening to this podcast right now can hear what we're saying and think that, oh, these are laudable things to do. But it's another thing entirely to see guys that look just like you acting that way
Yeah.
as models in lodge, you know, and that's a really cool thing to see it modeled for you.
Absolutely.
Not just someone reading a book or telling you what you should do, but you're watching them
You
and
see
how
other
they
people
carry
live it.
themselves.
Yeah, everyone's living it.
Yeah.
Well, we've noticed a lot of guys in lodge when they've come in. You know, we try to say we make good men better, but we've had some good guys come in, and you know, over their journey through the first 3 degrees, and even after they became a Master Mason, we've watched like a light turn on inside of them, and them just become really amazing people.
Right.
And you know, and they started doing a lot of work, and they worked twice as hard, and you know, put in extra effort to help out in the community.
Well, that
you know, at their
our-
church, at their house. You know, a lot of the wives say, you know, when you know, brother X joined the lodge, you know, he wasn't the best husband in the world, or he didn't take time out with the kids.
Yeah.
But since he started going through everything and the teachings and all the stuff, he's a more attentive husband. He's a better father. I mean, hell,
Well,
I'm a
that's
better
the great
father
thing with the
nowadays.
ritual is it's so robust and so great and widespread that sooner or later something will spark inside you from it, because
Right.
sooner or later you're going to hit on a topic that really touches home for you. It may be in the first degree, it may be in the third degree, but sooner or later something is going to really touch you.
Yeah.
What about you, Bear?
Well, I think Brother Ron touched on a little bit. One of the things I've tried to learn through Masonry is, number one, not take myself so seriously. As most of you know, I'm still kind of learning that lesson.
Shorts in the third degree.
Right.
That might be one of the best ones, and to explain to the studio audience or whoever's listening or everyone around, when Brother Bear was doing his proficiency for the third degree, it was right after it was New Year's Day.
New Year's Day.
And the dry cleaners were closed, and he showed up in a hoodie and shorts.
In my defense, the website said they were open.
It wasn't just you. There was multiple
But
guys.
there was multiple.
Multiple guys from the lodge showed up. Not, but it's the lodge is pretty laid back, and we allow that stuff. And you had to stand there while the two guys next to you were in suits, and you had to sit there.
See, but that also goes back to meeting on the level because
right.
there was no judgment. It was at least you were at the lodge with your brothers. That's what matters.
That's correct. And that is something that one of the reasons why I joined the lodge and got into Masonry to begin with is because of the brotherhood, this camaraderie, this family feeling that you get when you walk in the lodge is something that, having been in fire and EMS for almost 30 years, lately it's been feeling more distant there, but I found it again here. And it's just,
right.
And most of us honestly say when we come to lodge, by the time we leave at the end of the night, we are, happier.
Feel way better.
We feel so much better because we've spent time with our brothers in doing what we love. We love coming and meeting on the level.
I fully agree. There's a lot of nights, after a 10-hour shift at work, a 3-hour commute round trip, I get home and I got to go to I'm tired. I show up at the lodge. I'm tired. I honestly, I'd rather be in bed. And then all the brothers come in. We know it's like Cheers. Everyone knows everyone's name.
And we start cracking jokes.
Everyone's cracking jokes, and then that meeting starts, and everyone's having fun, and we want to be there. It's not like I go to lodge because it's an obligation. I go to lodge because I actually want to be there. And by the end of about a half hour into the meeting, I'm in one of the best moods of my life. And then at the end of the night, after the meeting, then we all hang out, to the wee hours and have true fellowship.
5 a.m.
But we have friends, visitors from other lodges who come and hang out with us, and we've gone out for an adult cocktail after the meeting, and it's when we're in that at Site P, which is my garage, when we're all sitting around
5 a.m.
we're all sitting there. But that's when we get into true Masonry. We talk about how we're all different, yet we all love the same things, and we talk about music and sports and a good cigar or whatever.
Craig's awesome ritual.
Yeah, and
Hey, my footwork's on point, though. Just my footwork's on point.
So, Brother Stitch, how about you?
And the Welsh.
Well, I'm one of the newest Master Masons in the lodge, and I'm probably one of the youngest Master Masons in the lodge. And
No, that'd be Brother Steve B.
well, yeah,
Steve's
but I said
Steve's
one
like,
of.
Steve's like, what is he, 22? Or
Yeah,
Someone's about your age already been doing it for
yeah,
20
he just-
years.
yeah,
What
I
you
was about to
just-
say, isn't Big Sexy like the youngest guy in the lodge?
And he's been doing it for 20 years.
No, he was the youngest Master Mason because he became a Master Mason right when it changed from 21 to 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Was that 1976?
but I've actually learned a lot.
Or 1777?
Yeah, I've actually learned a lot because, I came into Masonry not knowing anything. I didn't really know anybody that were Masons besides maybe one or two people, but it wasn't really that long. And one of our guests in the audience, one of the ladies of the lodge and a regular here at BlueDyer, I was a little bit rough around the edges at first,
Do you think he'll propose on Mike?
Oh, shit.
Oh, jeez.
No pressure. No pressure.
Oh,
Shots fired.
Wait till next episode.
Nothing like putting you on the spot, buddy.
All right.
Let's get him another drink or two.
Yeah, I think I need another drink. But yeah, I was rough around the edges because all I had was military experience. Because I went to the military at 19, so that's all the real world experience that I had. And I was very young. I was a sergeant at like 22, 23, and it was all the do what I say, do it now, and feelings weren't really a thought. And my girlfriend for a lot of times, would tell me, you got to consider my feelings. And as a manager, it's like, okay, I got to get things done. And that's how I did things. And as she has told me, ever since I became a member of the lodge, especially a Master Mason, I've become a little bit more considerate towards people. And I've soften the edges a little
Yeah,
bit.
you start thinking about
Little
other
bit.
people's feelings, at least considering them.
It's funny. She's hysterically laughing over
Because
there.
I would do the same thing, Keenan. Because at first, when you grow up and you start managing and doing stuff, you struggle not to manage your household.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people struggle, and that's where I struggled. Is I was managing my household, and my wife, and she would tell me constantly, "I don't work for you. Don't talk to me like that. Like I'm not one of your employees." Like so that's something that Masonry helped me break. Also, is not to manage my household and just live in my household and be a good husband to my wife. And
But
a good father to my
the
children.
management that it teaches you also is that, because we are much like the military, an all-volunteer organization, So at a lodge, you can't bark orders at someone and tell them to do something because,
Oh, no, you got to lead by example.
You got to lead by example because if you bark orders, they're like, I'm out. I'm a volunteer here. I don't need to work 90 hours and do all this extra work if I'm not going to be appreciated. So you learn to lead by example. Give kudos to those who are working. When all the guys sitting around this table, do a lot of work, and whether it be West Side and Hollywood with in Brother Crudge with the BMW boy or whatever I don't know, we don't have a nickname for him yet. But when they did the
Too
the
Tall?
golf, Too Tall, Too Tall is the normal one. But the golf tournament. When you guys put a lot of work into that, it raises money for charity.
Mr. I drive over cones. Yeah.
But and then Big Sexy does a lot with youth groups and is always trying to help out. And then and Bear over there was helping out with the gun raffle we had. Music Man over there. He brings an element into our lodge that is missing. And with the
he started the nicknames.
Yeah,
like,
the nicknames.
Right.
It's like going to a Chicago Bulls game, man. All of a sudden, Ron's announcing the starting lineup.
But I mean, even at installation, when he started playing music for the Grand Lodge when they came in, that was hilarious.
Oh, that was awesome.
But it's the guys in the lodge who can bring some humor and can do things. And when Ron's not in a meeting, it's a different meeting. It's a different vibe. It's like we go there, we have an okay fun time, but when Ron's in the room, it's electric.
It's a little more staged.
And it's a lot more fun. And and that's something that everyone in the lodge brings something to the lodge. It's not just you're in a seat and you're an officer. No, it's everyone in there has a purpose.
Everyone's missed when they're not
Well,
there. When they're not in lodge, they're missed. They honestly are.
Westside brought up managing and how he talks to his wife and whatnot, but dealing with my kids is the same way.
Yeah.
I'm more receptive to actually listening to my kids and their
Versus just telling them. I did the same thing.
Go to your room or do this because I said so. I actually listen to them now.
I agree. I have more patience with my kids now.
It did help me become a better father too. Not just a better husband, but a better father also.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think my ice is making too much noise because there's nothing in there. But
You need a metal cup.
Bartender.
But with
Need a metal cup full of ice.
But with that,
Bartender.
I think with that, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break. What I will do is I would like to say this podcast today is sponsored by BlueDyer Distilling Company.
Yeah, they will be on the next segment discussing Q&A on the history of the distillery.
They've been
That's
crafting.
awesome.
They've been crafting quality rum, whiskey, and gin right here in Waldorf, Maryland, since 2015, and we hope for much, much longer. And also by the Blue Diver.
Blue Divering. Blue Divering.
Another episode.
Hey, this proves that our commercials are not pre-recorded.
He just pronounced pronounced how he spelled Blue Dyer last time.
What I will say is
Another one.
The drinks are a little strong.
Another one.
And by
And
the
we just
Blue
started.
Dyer Tavern, your new local watering hole for craft cocktails, recently figured by Lynn O'Mara in Restaurants of Southern Maryland and the Charles County Visitor's Guide. Also, it was sponsored. It was on the Fox 5 Zip Trip about 2 years ago. It was voted the number one place to visit in Waldorf, and honestly, I agree. But Blue Dyer Tavern is a must-visit destination distillery, open for tours or just hanging out. They have specials on like Wednesdays. They have game night. They Fridays is teachers' night and stuff like that. But come down for tastings, craft cocktails. They're open Tuesday through Friday from 5 to 10, and Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 10. Located at 52 Industrial Park Drive, Suite 15, Waldorf, Maryland. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and their website, BlueDyerDistilling.com.
How do you spell that?
Well, you just Google it and it'll come right up.
ELYU. No.
Hey, Google.
When you're there, make sure to ask Dan for Craig's Smurf drink.
Yeah, Dan is their front end manager, bartender, genius. Ryan and Walker are the owners. Ryan is kind of the mad scientist, and Walker's the guy. If you want a good tour, you go to him. Yes, Texas Ranger. But it's all good. But they're great guys. Come down and visit. And with that, we'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll have the guys from Blue Dyer on here for a little Q&A and a little fun.
So Mote It Be, so Mote It Be, Shout out to all my brothers through Freemasonry. Let's meet on the level. I earned 3 degrees.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to segment 2. We will now be talking with one of the owners of BlueDyer, a good friend of most of ours, because he doesn't care for everyone. But Walker, who is one of the co-owners, he's one of the inventors of this wonderful distillery that we're enjoying a beverage at tonight.
Texas Ranger.
That's right.
Sorry, I had to take a drink. So we will get right into the questions that we have. So, Walker, a question for you. What made you guys start a distillery?
Yeah, there's a lot that went into it, but essentially if you boil it down to a short answer, Ryan and I both did not like our jobs we were at the time, didn't see necessarily longevity in it, and Ryan went up to New York and toured a distillery on New Year's or right after, and he realized that you can do this legally now, and his family had bootlegging backgrounds, and he came back and started talking about it, saying like, are we gonna see if one is open in Southern Maryland? If there's not, we're gonna open one. And then he kind of started talking about it, and most people said he was crazy and that's stupid. And for whatever reason, I asked him if he needs someone to do that with, and then we just started going from there.
Hey, before we get to that,
you got roped into it, basically. Is that what you're saying?
No, I volunteered for this, unfortunately. Yeah.
So before the next PowerPoint we got there, what event helped you finally cut the tie to the other job and say we're going full bore with this? Let's finally we're gonna call it quits on this other job and we're gonna do this.
Sure. The best that I can say that did that is that we were losing too much potential money on events, markets, going out finding new accounts, maintaining old accounts, and just going that direction. It wasn't necessarily we were losing money; it's just potential money. So if you needed to grow it and keep going as a business, I mean, if your business is just surviving, that's not going to last very long. So you really needed to actually make a few profits so you can invest that money back in and continue to grow.
That's right.
I remember when you guys first started, you were actually delivering to the local stores out of the back of your vehicle. So whenever the local Berry County market that's right by some of our houses, when they were out, they'd have to call you guys up on the phone and we're out of rum again. We need rum. You know, old Site P is empty. So
Yeah, and there weren't when we opened, I think we were the 5th distillery in Maryland. So there weren't a lot of people that were used to that happening, especially to self-distributing. So we had a few people being like, "What, are you just selling this out of the back of your truck?" And we're like, Actually, yeah. I mean, I have a plethora of federal, state, and local permits that allow me to do such a thing. But yes, that's exactly what I'm doing when you boil it down to it.
So how'd you get to the name BlueDyer?
Yeah, the name, all that history is in Ryan's family. I've just been lucky enough to weasel my way into it, and now I'm staying. But the original BlueDyer in his family goes back 11 generations. And he settled in what's now Adams County, Pennsylvania. He was a doctor. But most of the time, up to and including his will, he identified himself as a BlueDyer. During that time period, the profession of BlueDyer was getting blue dye out of indigo and woad, but it wasn't water soluble. You had to distill an industrial grade alcohol to get that out. So being a doctor, he had a cursory knowledge of botany, chemistry, and being a BlueDyer, he had a still. So when he wasn't making blue dye and he wasn't being a doctor, he was making liquor. And we know that because Adams County Historical Society was awesome, and they found us minutes from a Quaker meeting that they invited him to, where they very politely asked him to stop making and selling liquor in the area, and he very politely said no. But the name then got passed down in the family as a nickname, and where it more recently relates to us is Ryan's great-grandfather, who was a bootlegger out of Stafford County, Virginia. He used the BlueDyer name as his handle, or nom de guerre, if you will, while he was running liquor out of Stafford County, up Route 1 into Northern Virginia and D.C. He got caught. He did 10 years federal penitentiary, but it worked for a little bit there. But great-granddad talked granddad, and then it just kind of stuck. So Ryan actually had and still has a BlueDyer tattoo before we even started this. So
nice.
It was the easiest conversation we had. The opening
Great grandpa sounds like a gangster.
And what I will say is, if guys you're in the Waldorf area and you'd like to come down for a, they have their tavern open. The tavern is open Tuesday through Sunday. On Saturdays and Sundays, they're open from 2 to 10, and from Tuesdays to Fridays, they're open from 5 to 10. Did that from memory. I've been here enough. And they're located at 52 Industrial Park Drive, Suite 15, Waldorf, Maryland. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram. They have a beautiful webpage some genius put up for them. I heard they paid him a ton of money for it.
DJ Spike.
I almost said it without laughing. So
DJ Spike
In the house.
So what? I know we have some other questions, but I have one that I wanted to know is going through. What would you say was the biggest mistake you guys made that you stumbled across, but you could tell that you could help people avoid? Not necessarily just that want to do distillery, but any business. Like, what was the biggest mistake you came across?
Putting an alcohol company by MVA.
Right, actually, surprisingly not. I think the biggest one was marketing. Not doing enough necessarily research on marketing and advertising. We didn't put a ton of money because we didn't have a ton of money, but we did some conventional advertising to begin with. And if you're selling a product that at that time was not sold outside the state, it doesn't make sense to go for any sort of conventional advertising. If you can do hyper-local stuff, and then if you can get organic, homegrown interaction with that, that's where it's at. So Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, which we try to get more on it, but we're kind of slacking on that. But definitely your Facebook and your Instagram, and you have to do all of them because they all hit different demographics.
Well, we use one for our lodge that every time we post something on Facebook, it automatically puts it on
so
on Twitter. So with the Instagram app, I can set something to post on Instagram, and it'll automatically start putting it on Facebook. And then someone just died somewhere. But
So basically, don't fall into the trap of trying to do too much widespread marketing.
Yeah.
Like centralize your marketing to the region.
Understand who you're trying to reach and why you're trying to reach them, and at different times you need to change it up, and you need to constantly evaluate. And if you're just hold on to something and you're like, this is the only way to do it, and you're not trying to pivot. There's so many times Ryan and we're just talking that we're sitting there like, oh man, this isn't happening fast enough, but at least it's happening. And if we had just stayed our course and just tried to ride it out, it wouldn't have worked. So you got to reevaluate. You got to pivot when you got to pivot, and you just got to know your business and just always ask questions. Your customers are the best ones. If anybody walks in here, the first question I'm going to ask you is be like, hey, how'd you hear about us? Yeah, because I want to know.
Well, the one thing I'd like to ask you is, I've been around you guys for a while, and I knew you started off the distillery, but how long did it really take you from the initial concept to production in this facility? I mean, obviously, you had to be making test batches, quote unquote, air quotes, I'm throwing up that no one could see, except there's a video going today. But I mean, how long did it take you to scale to the amount of alcohol, the amount of rum that you started making? Because initially, you can make a small batch, but when you're making cases at a time, and now you have a distributor, and the distributor's like, we need a pallet full of cases. How long does that really take?
Sure. Well, it takes roughly about a year and a half if you think about when you're analyzing numbers and going forward. Now, the problem with that is we're too new. It's bad math. We don't know what we need.
I got bad math too.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's because you're a stupid Marine.
The math for Marines is great.
Hey man, I can only count up to 10. All right, leave me alone.
20 if you take your shoes off.
So going back to your history, when did Ryan first learn about the family business?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, he's always grown up hearing about the BlueDyer boys, and not just from family, but down in Stafford, some of the families that have been there longer, they're like, oh yeah, you're related to the BlueDyer boys, and they were kind of known in the area for what they were doing. But when did he really learn about the distilling process? Anywhere between from age 8 to 11 is really when he started actually seeing what's going on. Now I will say on public record that neither Ryan nor myself have ever made a single drop without a federal permit, because that's illegal.
Right.
We simply happen to watch other people doing it.
Without dropping any names.
So,
Yes.
so how long did that first recipe take to like perfect? Like
Yeah.
I imagine, did the first batch just come out tasting like gold, or did the first batch come out tasting like
Hot fire.
something you didn't want to drink really?
No, it wasn't absolute gold. It wasn't the best thing we've ever made, and but it
With
wasn't-
enough mixer, everything tastes good.
Yeah,
There you
right.
go.
But it wasn't terrible, and we've never actually had to throw out a batch really, and we've never lost a fermentation tank. So
Quitters
Great
never
beat.
win.
yeah, nice.
So
So-
winners never quit.
So you brought up he took a trip to New York to see a distillery. Is that the first time he thought about opening a distillery, or had he thought about that before?
Yeah, no, that was the first. Surprisingly, he really at that point. I mean, there weren't a lot of distilleries out there, especially in Maryland.
Well, there still isn't.
Yeah. That you could know that you could do this and you could legally do it, and that just an individual could get the license for it. Not that necessarily just an individual can open a distillery, because we've seen that a few times, and you can technically do it. Your reach is not going to be nearly. You need at least 2 people to get anywhere.
So just a question. So how does BlueDyer actually keep up with the demands of thirsty Masons in Plata and Waldorf?
Yeah.
One bottle at a time.
We know we sort of factor in based on every run for rum that we're going to do. That roughly around 15 to 20 cases are going to be specifically set aside, just essentially for Masons and friends.
For the hard
So what's your biggest seller? What's your number one seller?
Well, there's 6 products. So we have the gold rum, which was the first one that came out. Then the gin. We came out, like I own the company, but I've been here since the beginning. So then we had the regular the bourbon whiskey, and then we came out with the dark rum, the barrel aged, barrel rested gin. Then eventually the port whiskey came out.
Port whiskey
The gin
is
came
straight
out before
port.
the whiskey?
That
the
port
port
whiskey
whiskey.
is straight fire.
Yeah, the
I,
port.
I feel
That
like you're
port
missing
whiskey is
one.
amazing.
So good.
I feel like you're missing
Yeah, I
one.
feel like I'm missing 2.
Yeah, I think
What are we missing?
Hey, when do we get
Dark
spice rum?
Yeah, I
That's
think
the question.
spice
rum and
Spice rum.
vodka.
Spice rum's hard. That's one that we got to wrap our heads around
Get busy.
with ourselves, just because spice rum essentially came about because they were trying to mimic not only barrel aging, but they were covering up bad spirits.
Fix it.
So if you, not to offend anybody, but
I'm offended.
if your go-to good, if you go to if
Job is done.
if your go-to spirit is cinnamon whiskey, just so you know, that's like bottom of the line. That's their trash.
But it doesn't got to
spirits.
taste good because they're adding this flavor.
Exactly. So if you add enough of something to it, it should taste good. And, the fact that some people are like, well, I like cinnamon whiskey. I mean, it doesn't taste great. And I'm like, see, that's a problem. Like they're putting a lot of stuff in there to make it taste good.
Right.
So what is the next special like flavor or liquor you have coming out? I know you have the port, and I rave about that. Anyone that asks me, so I know it's hard to find at time because there's limited runs of it, but I rave on the port whiskey constantly. I love that stuff. But what's the next special you have coming out?
Yeah, I just went up to McClintock Distilling in Frederick, and if anybody ever has a chance to go up to Frederick and go see those guys, they're great. They hands down, I think they make the best gin. Basically that I've ever tasted. So if you go up and see them, they're great. They have a venue, so they do a lot of weddings and stuff like that, but they're fantastic. We're doing something with them. I just picked up some Madeira wine barrels that they were utilizing for some of their barrel gin for one of their runs, and then we are going to do a run through it, and then it's going to be a collaboration between us that is going to come into something. I'm not sure what at what time. We got to kind of figure that out a little bit, but we'll see. That will be the next one that will be out.
I can't wait to taste it. That kind of sounds amazing with
Yeah.
the Madeira.
See,
That sounds like it might be pretty amazing.
I feel like that BlueDyer needs to make a designer, St. Columba,
Now
Masonic,
you're talking.
I'd actually like to see some vodka.
yeah, designer vodka, designer rum, possibly.
Well,
That's just 'cause you like skinny
their
vodka.
bartender, bar manager, bar genius Dan just walked in with his horse.
Making a bunch
I
of
like
noise.
how there's a horse walking around and no one's discussing there's a horse walking around the room.
I'm not a man, I'm a horse. I'm not a horse, I'm a broom.
But Dan just walked in, and we have questions for Dan because I know Walker has very limited time today. Because
well, let me get one more question in for Walker.
Yeah, I've got one more too.
One more question is what is as of right now? What do you see the evolution? Where are you guys going? How big do you want to get? Like, what's your end game?
Yeah.
Thanos level. Take over the world.
Yeah, right. Be able to snap my
Snap
fingers.
your fingers, and it all comes true.
It's not necessarily that we're looking to be the next thing that's available in like every country around the world, because I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think you could lose touch with what you have. So part of the thing that Ryan and I always evaluate and reevaluate is how fast are we growing, and do we need to scale some stuff back? Because if you grow too fast, then you lose a little bit of your identity and who you are.
Yeah, that you see a lot of people fall into that trap where the product ends up suffering because they grow too fast.
Exactly, and that's what we want to. That's what we want to not have happen. Now, what we want to do is try to maintain our presence. Our presence in Maryland.
the bear is breaking stuff and knocking stuff over.
Where's that drop you got for the bear?
Go back to hibernation.
I don't think those mics are expensive. Or anything.
No, these are cheap mics.
Really, they don't look like cheap mics.
You're saying
that one's cheap now.
Keep your presence in Maryland and.
Yeah, keep our presence in Maryland, and then going forward, being able to have a place where people can come down and, you can have a tavern, you can have a distillery, and then you can have an event space.
Okay.
One of the things we saw basically is that at least Charles County and some of Southern Maryland, there are some good event space in Southern Maryland. Brian and I both just have some bad memories about how much we paid for our wedding venues, and if we could provide a space that was a little bit more reasonably priced, it would fit in with how we built this, which is reasonably priced but good quality.
And I can tell you from experience, because I've tried to book a couple of the last couple of years, there is almost zero decent event space in the Waldorf area. Like, it's really lacking. Yeah. As far as you can, you have wineries, but other than that, there's just not a whole lot.
And the good places are expensive.
They're very expensive. I mean, there's a few that we've been to, and they're pricey. They're very pricey, and they don't put out. Some of them are just barns in the woods, but some of them are. The vineyards are nice, the wineries are nice in the area. Don't get me wrong, but you're going to pay at a premium cost to have it there, and for their product to be on hand.
And in all reality, I mean, that is something we want to do, but what that would also allow us to do is be able to experiment in here and be able to come out with all the different things. I mean, if we didn't turn around and open a tavern and spend a lot of time and money on that, we would currently be releasing 3 additional whiskeys. So we've got a rye, a single malt, and a 3 grain that we want to have coming out. So we've researched all, we know how we're going to do it. But if you don't have those necessarily capital funds available, then you can't throw it back in and then expect it. Because the hard part about running a distillery is your product is not ready for a year and a half, and it has to age. And
that's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, then I remember when you guys started putting out the new products. The biggest problem is you have to have a label approved by the government. The recipe has to be approved. The ATF, all those stuff, it takes forever. And every time you put out a new product, it costs a lot of money. So you can make a vat of, let's just say vodka right now, but you can't start selling it or even do anything because you have to come up with a lot of capital in order to pay for the licensing and everything for the government. I mean, it's a lot.
I say you counter skinny vodka with just fat guy vodka. We're telling them right now. Fat guy vodka.
Fat guy vodka. I got one more question for you. So, for you and Ryan, if you can answer for him, since he's not here.
Craig's notes are all in crayon today?
They're in pen with a lot of scribbles. They're in pen with a lot of scribbles. No crayon today.
How'd you get that to stay on the Etch-a-Sketch like that?
I don't know, man, but I did a good job. So, what is your favorite product that you make? And what's your favorite to drink, and then what's his, if you can answer for him?
Yeah, I mean our favorite product to make is gonna be the rum. Whiskey's fun. Whiskey's fun to make, and it's great to make. But the best way I can describe it is rum. Rum is your B student. It shows up every day. It does the same thing, and you know what you're gonna get, right? Whiskey is your just crazy idiot savant sometimes. you don't know what's going to happen.
A student one day, F student the next.
Right, and all of a sudden it could just be giving you the hardest time in the world, and then it's fine the rest of the run through, and it comes out amazing. But it could also be just absolutely crazy the entire time, and you're trying to fight with it on what's going on.
Now, what about vodka?
Yeah,
Just tell me,
That guy.
right. It's so the label for the vodka is actually already approved.
Oh, yeah. It's coming.
Well,
So like Craig said, what's your favorite to
Anything
drink?
you
Having
want
to
to
see my
reveal here on
dreams
the
come
podcast?
true.
What's
My
your favorite
dreams
to
are
drink
coming
off
true.
that,
That's
Walker?
the.
Let's
yeah,
finish
happy
it with
about
what's your favorite to drink is.
My favorite to drink is the gold rum, and then I can safely and confidently say that Ryan's favorite is the dark rum.
Nice.
There's no doubt about that. So
He just walked in with a thumbs up for that too.
Yeah, as it goes with numbers, because you were asking what's kind of the biggest sellers going forward. Dark rum, numbers of bottles, hands down wins
Nice.
pretty much every time. It wins a lot of places. It wins when we go to markets. It wins a lot of times in stores.
Won an award too.
The gold rum did.
Nice.
But we just recently were finally able, after a 2-year battle, to
Ryan is louder than Craig. He doesn't realize the mics are on.
This is what happens when you record.
I'm just gonna do what I want. It's my place.
Surprise. He could probably. He might be able to pick up all the F-bombs. He's probably gonna start dropping.
No cursing.
Got to
No
keep it ready
F-bombs.
to Disney.
Yep. But that's it's
Did anybody
it looks
warn him
nice in the
about
bottle.
that?
It's got a good flavor. It's got kind of like a creme brulee topping finish on the back end. But whiskey still numbers wise is for sales is our biggest generator. But
Okay.
that's because it costs a little more because it has to. You don't
Right,
have as many
right.
you don't have many fermentable sugars that come out. It's a little bit harder. It's a lot harder to make. But yeah.
All right, anything
So-
else for Walker over
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. I mean,
Before we
I
switch
still
to Dan.
got,
Before we switch to Dan, we've
So,
got some minutes
yeah, you
here.
guys can-
Yeah.
I still got
When's
about
the release date for that Fat Guy vodka?
Fat guy vodka.
Yeah.
I like that. Direct competitor to skinny vodka. I like it.
We're taking it down right now.
Yeah, we just add sugar, nothing else. Just straight sugar.
All the
It ju-
flavor,
it just
double
cut-
the hangover.
Yeah, right.
It comes with an insulin needle taped to it.
Yeah,
Diabetes with your first shot.
yeah, right. Yeah, true story.
Hey, I want to say this is the best old fashioned I've ever had.
Oh, it was absolutely
Thank you.
delicious.
And
My rum and Coke was
I will
good,
tell
too.
you that's actually a pretty good segue into Dan Marlowe right here. I've worked at a bunch of bars, but I never made it past bouncer or bar back. They never let me actually talk to people and make drinks.
For good
So
reason.
yeah,
But bouncing is barback's hard work, but bouncing's fun.
yeah. So
Bareback's good,
the cocktail program is all is all Dan Marlowe, and that my ability to make a cocktail before Dan coming in was do you want Coke or Diet Coke? That was it.
Hey,
And,
but I will say you did a really good job because I think you made the smoked wood old fashioned.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
very
yeah, that
delicious.
was
I got one of those
absolutely
also. Yeah, we got Dan over here.
The
He's,
daiquiri, and let me tell you, this daiquiri is delish.
Dan's-
So other than
Dan's
Spike
Dan's
drinking
the
a
Jedi.
daiquiri and the rest of us drinking the old fashioned, anybody drinking anything else?
I've had the
Dark and light.
Dark and light.
Sazerac, the Zazraz.
Sazerac.
Dark rum,
Sazerac.
Diet Coke.
I've had that. It's pretty amazing. I had that last time I was here, just the other day. It's really good. So,
Yeah, and we're working on different stuff to make us a little bit separate too. I mean, we make all of our own mixers that go in. So the
Should make a site P.
the Campari, the vermouth, sweet and dried. Like we make all of it. The triple.
Oh, you
sec.
guys make that here? Nice,
Yep.
nice.
So all that means made here. We're now making all of our own syrups for going in for any of the sodas that you're going to see in there.
Yeah, you just got to be careful with that soda machine. If you don't do it right, it blows up. Makes
Yeah,
a
it
mess
does.
all over the
It
place.
If you do it right, it never blows up.
But the other thing is that we're trying to have cool garnishes that go on there as well. Dan just recently started making all of our own cherries. So all the cherries that are in there, those are house-made cherries by us.
It's like a Jedi master behind the bar.
Yeah, and then I mean, if you order a martini, you get a pickled garlic.
Nice.
That's yeah.
Nice.
So that
Oh wow,
yep.
that cherry is really good too.
And then the Bloody Marys, which we have Old Bay pickles that are going to be skewered on there.
That sounds
Some
sweet.
other stuff. So
That sounds like Maryland right there.
Let's get to our bartender Dan over there. Dan, is your mic working?
I'm hoping not.
Yeah, it's got
Too bad it's working.
Too bad.
You got to talk on it.
gotta
You
get
can't
up
be
all over there,
you
Dan.
can't be in the stilling room when you talk
Don't
on
be
mic.
like
Just
Craig.
in-
I'm going to give you an example of how Craig likes to talk into his mic, and he goes around like this and turns sideways.
Craig wants to do interviews from the parking lot. So So Dan is one of the genius the genius bartender and the front end manager, a little everything. Dan's been helping out a lot with BlueDyer, helping him get into that next level.
So
Dan, the question I have for you, and this is, what is your favorite drink to make for people? But what would you like to make that might be a little too crazy at this time? You don't think people are ready for?
Saipi.
No, my favorite drink to make for people, realistically, is going to be a sour any day of the week because there's so many breakdowns, breakups, break sideways. Old fashions too. We definitely like to show people that they're a category of cocktail, not something specifically inherent to whiskey. We build ours with our gin and our dark rum, and oftentimes when people ask for the old fashioned, we offer those choices, and that in turn brings about a whole new conversation because a lot of people haven't had that opportunity. The assumption is that they're going to get a whiskey old fashioned, and that's not that simple either because it could be bourbon whiskey, it could be rye whiskey, you could rebuild it with a Scotch whiskey or American single malt whiskey. Forget it. There are wheat whiskeys. The list goes on. No, truthfully,
Wheat whiskeys.
Irish whiskey.
Oh yeah.
I can just listen to people talk about liquor all day.
So it's a midget whiskey?
Oh, they probably make one of those too.
Steve would love it.
So here to tap on the mics.
Can they drive a Power Wheels?
How long did it take you to come up with the recipes for what you currently have? And what's the first recipe you're eyeing for when that vodka comes?
Vodka.
Fat guy vodka.
All right. Well, sticking with the trend, we'll be doing a vodka sour for sure. Now, guys, truthfully, I came late because I wanted to make sure that he knew how to make the cocktails. So this is Walker told you earlier that he. Okay, Spike, just tell me what you're.
You gotta get closer to the mic.
Eat the mic.
Apparently, I have to.
There you go.
All right. This is like when we went to karaoke for the first time and had no idea what we were doing.
Very good.
Yes.
No, so Walker, he sold himself short. He was actually a terrible bartender. No, but incredible. Like anything
Shots
else he
fired.
applies anything else he applies himself to, and the truth is, anyone who takes a moment to actually listen, give it a try, and then taste it, can do it too. And that's the emphasis we have behind our entire program.
So he was a slow kid in the AP class.
He can move pretty quick, actually. But,
So tabling off that
Shots
with
fired.
you having trained
Shots
Walker,
fired.
have you guys thought about offering some kind of like course to teach people to bartend?
That'd be a good idea.
Through him?
I'll sign up for that.
Yeah, I just know liquor
the
and
short
ice.
answer is yes. The long answer is a lot of pots on the fire right now, and
Of course.
I'll be the taste tester.
with a few other areas of focus in the program at the moment. While people are in here, we teach them about distilling, right? Because we're a distillery.
Right.
So while they're in here drinking our distilled spirits in cocktail form, we also teach them about cocktails. So while the classes are coming, right now, if you come in, you have a drink with us, I promise you're going to learn about the history of rye whiskey. You're going to learn about the history of an old-fashioned. You're going to learn what the difference is between a sour and a fix and how the fix died off, but the sour lasted and moved on and evolved. It got an egg white. It got whiskey. It got claret table wine and turned into a New York sour. You can't leave here without learning something unless you really, really just don't want to. So
Wow, you're like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of alcohol.
He's straight Yoda, dude.
He's the bartender ninja.
Like Yoda, and we're not even Luke. We're like R2-D2s.
now hold on. You had asked me about kind of a dream off the wall cocktail.
Yes.
We went with the realistic one and the one that I offer to most folks. So when I first came in, like 10 months ago, I made a drink for Ryan, and we actually ran for a little bit, but egg whites and eggs in general often require a little more scrutiny. So
Salt and pepper,
So
too.
now I'll tell you,
S&P is
in
away
a
from
few
me.
minutes about this wonderful thing called aquafaba that we use here. But
What was that again?
but
What was that?
We're gonna come back to aquafaba. Pin in that.
Aquafaba?
Aquafaba.
Ask me
We're pinning it.
confusedly
We're pinning
about
it.
that in a minute. But my favorite drink, this is just my Achilles heel, is something called a flip.
Yes.
And there is a lot of fun history to it. It goes back a very, very long time. And at one point in time, it really, truly was made with a red hot iron shoved into a bunch of beer and cream and rum.
I was wondering where you're going
with it curdled, and that's where they got the name the flip. Now the drink itself has evolved to such a ridiculous degree, like any other. So now what it typically is any spirit, any sugar, a little bit of dark beer, and a whole egg with cream or some dairy product. Now, there's tricks in how you make it. Sometimes you have the idea is you separate the egg in the white, the yolk in the white, and you have to shake them at different times during the process of building the drink, or you don't get the desired effect.
Why do I feel I'd be serving salmonella to everyone?
Well, you know, if you're serving it with the right spirits, you wouldn't be. So that is kind of a little nuttier cocktail, but it's for all intents and purposes like a intense dairy sour. You know, your sour is spirit, sugar, citrus. So we're just putting in some cream and some egg instead of the citrus. And the drink itself, though, it's a bit of a complicated drink, and with all the dairy and the raw egg, it's a tough sell to a crowd that's just getting used to true daiquiris.
And when we do it, I want to make sure that we have a spot where we can actually use a red hot poker that came right out of a fire and
That'd
just
be
slam
awesome.
it in there. I think that's.
I don't like that you're staring at me. You're like, I'm stab me with
red hot poker.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
Gentlemen, I
It
know
would
a
be
place
rather
where we
cathartic,
can make
so
that
I think
happen.
that's- yeah.
Psych P.
Hey,
I'm not gonna lie.
no one's going to your basement with the red hot pokers.
Right?
That drink kind of sounds like you're going to be making
Come on,
offerings to
man.
porcelain gods
I
on
like
both
the
ends.
Clockwork Orange Hamp, by the way.
It's delicious.
Well, it
though.
sounds interesting, and
Loving
I
the
want to
diabetes.
try it.
Tis a nice hat.
Are
He's
you,
looking for a little
are you
ultraviolence.
going to confusedly ask me about aquafaba?
Yes. What is that?
Absolutely.
What is that
aquafaba?
exactly?
What is aquafaba?
No, we get that every day.
Just water.
So check this out, right? So when you make a drink with an egg white, and there are a lot of traditional cocktails that exist that take an egg white, and anyone who says otherwise, you know what? They're missing out. But the truth is, it's got a long history going all the way back to the 1880s, and so using an egg white is inherent to a lot of classic cocktails. But we have a lot of vegan audiences now. We have a lot of gluten-free audiences now. And check this out. We have a lot of cost-saving and eco-friendly audiences now. There's a lot of issues
Gender non-conforming.
surrounding,
Hippies.
the sourcing
Bunch
of
of
eggs
hippies.
sometimes. You know, so basically, it's a politically correct, very safe, and frankly,
Beverage fluid.
This is the important part, guys. This is the really important part. A tasty alternative to egg whites, because if it didn't
Nice.
taste good, it would be pointless. But you guys know what chickpeas are, right?
Yes.
Chickpeas,
Yep.
garbanzo
Yes,
beans,
sir.
right? So you
Hummus.
throw it in water. Just throw it in water. Soak it. There's a bunch of starch on those. The starch washes off, mixes into the water. When that water is agitated, which, you know, we tend to agitate and aggravate a lot of people.
I'm agitated. I don't have a drink in my hand. It's empty.
Exactly. Well, unfortunately, I got the
glass is
bartender behind the mic
agitated.
right now.
Yeah. Quit complaining.
It foams, though. It foams just like an egg white, and it's got a very blank canvas with a little bit of mouthfeel. So, like an egg white, it conforms to the flavor profiles of the drink. So, in a sour, in a flip, it's actually a long list, but the point is, this is an option for audiences that really aren't quite sure about an egg white, and
Or a mouthfeel.
you could now the mouthfeel you get no matter what.
Or red hot poker.
I feel like this drink is going to give me sensory overload.
Now,
feel like-
as a small business, though, this is the last consideration. Whatever you're going to pay for your eggs and your egg whites, whether carton, even the powdered egg whites by comparison, 1 can of chickpeas, 99 cents. You can wash it 5 times with 1,000 milliliters of water. I can make close to 100 cocktails from that 1 can of
Oh,
chickpeas.
yeah. Price conservative is great. Not to mention the vegans will show up and steal your soul.
Well, not to mention we get all the good mouthfeel posts.
I'm all about the mouthfeels. Now, coming up to the mic now, we're going to have to teach him to actually be on mic and not step away too far from it.
And keep it rated Disney.
Is the owner, one of the owners of BlueDyer.
The man himself.
He is the mad scientist.
Eat the mic. Eat
He is
the
the
mic.
guy who came up with the recipes, and when I first met him, he was sleeping in the office because he was working like 9 jobs because he's Jamaican. But right now we have Ryan, and he's not on. Can we get his mic hot?
Oh, he's
Yep.
on.
He's on.
He's on.
Should be good.
Talk to the
Just
mic.
Step in.
Step in,
Put
jump
your
in.
mouth on it. Eat
Come on, it's a rap battle. Jump in.
Right here.
There you go.
Hear me?
Hey,
you go.
there he is.
There's the real Slim
There
Shady.
you go.
Hey, welcome to the table.
We make liquor and liquor-based accessories.
So Ryan, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for letting us host at your lovely business that some of us have been coming since you guys opened. What if you had the opportunity, as the mad scientist, as the main brewer of everything here, what would you like to make the most? Other than the spice rum and the vodka that we're dying for.
Yeah, enough money to pay the bills on time.
There you go. Truth bomb.
So
We'll keep you employed.
I talk about this all the time. I say on the left hand is me as an artist, and then on the right hand is like the guy trying to keep the business growing in the beginning of the business. They're not quite like this yet. I want to get there. I mean, there's things that we've done that are business decisions over purely what we'd like to do.
Well, it's a learning process. When you start a distillery and there's no basis for one in the area, you got to kind of limp your way and stumble through the dark
from the hip there.
Yeah,
that's the artistry part of it.
Yeah. But what I'd love to make,
Way to throw him a curveball right off the bat, Spike.
Way to go,
he's outside working on his secret project, so
sweating his
Yeah,
head
right
off.
now he would love to make tacos.
That's a taco truck. It's not a secret.
The taco jokes.
I
never
cannot
end.
wait for the tacos to
So
come.
does that mean that BlueDyer is going to be making tequila?
No way.
No, ew.
We can't.
I mean, but come on, you got a taco truck and you're a distiller. Come on, you got to make tequila.
Well,
never be
tequila
called
has
tequila.
to be a product of Mexico by treaty. So we could make agave-based specialty spirit,
But you can't call it.
but we can't call it tequila.
So it's not tequila, it's tequila.
Yeah, it's like
That sounds like the ghetto version of it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Well, we are in Waldorf.
Any chance of an Irish whiskey?
that also has to be made.
That's
In Ireland.
especially Ireland.
When you start bringing countries into it.
Yeah.
Then it would be like Blue O-Dyer.
Right? Let me talk about what's our game plan in the next year. I don't know what I want to make. Rye whiskey is my favorite whiskey. That's what I'll drink. Besides the dark rum. The dark rum is really simple to make. I don't know if
I
it's
like the dark
enjoyable. After enough batches, it can get a little redundant, sort of like that old commercial making the donuts.
Yeah.
Donuts are delicious.
But we're definitely going to get into a rye, an American single malt, a 3-grain, and we'd really like to do a whiskey with sorghum. We're trying to set something up to do a locally grown sorghum and do a sorghum whiskey. But then, how soon can we get all these things done? Everything is a system. So getting the tavern up off the ground, we realized we needed the food business. So now we're getting the food business off the ground to support the tavern. And then once the tavern is...
You got to get on the mic, man.
Once the tavern's doing well enough, then I can disappear from construction work and bar backing work and get into the back and get back to the nuts and bolts of the business. So I feel like a little torn away from the production end for the last year or so.
So your comfort zone's being the mad scientist in the back coming up with.
Whoa.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do tours. He wants to sit in the back and just come up with crazy ideas.
So I asked Walker, what is your guys' end game eventually? Like how big do you want to get? How small do you want to stay? Is there a sweet spot you're looking for?
Yeah, the dream is Eastern Seaboard distribution. I wouldn't want to go beyond that. Just if we can be distributed to the East Coast.
The air conditioning just kicked on.
Yeah.
That's pretty good distribution though. That's
So,
good size.
you guys are pretty green as far as the way you operate. Water, what you do with the chips. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it really boils down to the economics of it. It's interesting. There's sort of this dichotomy where people believe that for a business to operate with green principles or processes that it typically costs more. And from a very small business perspective, all of the green policies and procedures that we have are also more economical. Distributing waste grains to local farms, the spent grains from our whiskey, it saves us a tremendous amount of money, labor. There's a cost by the ton for commercial waste that we're not paying. So recycling heated wastewater, it saves us money. If we've heated the water for one process and then we can use it hot for another process versus reheating another 300 gallons of water. It's
but I mean, not just that, but the grains go back to the local farms that help support the place. But the support that you guys are doing, not just to the environment, but also to the local farms. We're even sponsoring local, like our lodge for our golf tournament every year, and the money that comes into the golf tournament goes into a local charity, which is the Springdale Center in La Plata, which helps with VOTEC training.
It's like the Lion King. It's a cycle of life.
It is. It is the circle of life.
Alcoholics.
Yeah.
It's a.
But I mean, your business is not just helping, the environment. You're helping local businesses. You're helping local charities. There's so many things that you guys are tied into that you know.
Well, and we find that sort of growing that web, it helps the business. Running a small business is kind of like that movie, The Gambler. I mean, once we started distributing to local farms, then within a year, Dan leveraged that to get us into one of our cocktail garnishes with Boondoggie Farms in Bryantown. Boondoggie Farms runs a local crafters market once a month, 6 months out of the year. And so we have a really good foothold in with her kind of at that particular farm. She's built an FDA-approved kitchen and is going to be distributing Old Bay infused pickles, licensed by Old Bay.
America's best.
Right.
You put Old Bay on anything in Maryland, people are like, "Oh, it's Old Bay." They go crazy.
And as a result of our farm connections and networking, we were one of the first persons to have that product available. So it's good for us. It enhances the value of our Bloody Mary. And at the same time, we're helping her from a grassroots standpoint get the word out on the product. So I think what we've learned is that there's an antiquated thought process that a lot of entrepreneurs operate according to, where they believe that business is a zero-sum game. If my business didn't make the dollar and business B made the dollar, then I'm losing. But what we found is, like, the wider you can grow the web and the more different businesses and parts of the community that you can reach into, the more everybody's business grows.
I agree. That's a good way of putting it.
You guys can grow together.
So, with that, I think that's a good way to end this segment on. We're going to take a little break. We're going to make a drink and come back with
Dan's going to make a drink.
Dan's
come back with our wrap up.
Our funny discussion for the night, and then we will follow this up. Anyway, we'll be back in a few with the next part.
Yep.
And we're back after a fresh round of drinks from our good bartender Dan here at BlueDyer. We apologize for the background noise. The air conditioner's on because they're getting ready to open the tavern for the evening.
Not just that, it was getting sweaty for some big guys in here.
In a remote.
And we got a hot guest in the room.
Big guys need some foot.
We're throwing off some BTUs.
Hey, remember, don't make eye contact.
All right, so
There's always eye contact.
We're gonna wrap up this wonderful podcast with a little discussion on what was the first car that you ever owned and rode into the ground. So we'll start off with old West Side to my left.
Yeah, man. My first car ever was a Chevy Citation, dude. It was an 85 Chevy Citation, and it had a vertical AM stereo, so I had to take the vertical out, put a tape deck in, but then the tape deck was in sideways, so it only played for like 30 minutes until the tape started dragging because it was sideways. That mug had two 12-inch house speakers in it. Killing it. I was killing it. I remember the manifold fell off about week 2. It sounded like an import, but it wasn't really an import. It was just a Chevy Citation with no manifold and house speakers.
How about you, Big Sexy? What would you have?
My first car was a 2001 Mazda 626.
Oh, someone had some money.
Come on.
Someone has some money over it.
It was white. I bought it used. It was $5,000.
You sure it wasn't a Miata?
Yeah, it was brand new.
I'm sure. I was proud of it because I worked 2 jobs to be able to save up the money to buy it. So, but in the end, it lasted from here to Miami and back, and then And then the transmission gave out. I couldn't drive it in drive. I had to put it in first gear to get it going. And then I had to get the RPMs up to like 5,000 and slam it into drive. And then the headliner started falling out of it. But man, I had two 12-inch subs in the back of it.
Oh, so you had money because you had real subs.
And neon lights under it.
Oh, damn.
Oh, wow.
How about you over there, Hollywood?
I had a 2004 Nissan pickup. Well, five-speed four-banger.
2004?
Mr.
No,
Ford.
94, sorry,
Wow.
94.
Mr. Only Drive Ford had a Nissan pickup.
I don't only drive Ford. I drive a Chevy now.
Oh, Chevy. A Nissan pickup.
I had a Nissan
just
pickup.
checking.
It was
What's wrong with Nissans?
Hey, look.
I love my Nissan.
young Lance Corporal, no money. It was 12 grand, and I drove that truck like it was a race car.
Did it have the little tiny extended cab? That
No,
Nissan,
it
or
was
the
a straight regular cab.
That's
The
what you
little
can,
box.
You and one friend. You
It
and
was
one friend
yeah,
could roll.
one and one friend.
He could pick up extra friends at Home Depot to do some work.
The best part was being in Lejeune as a young Marine, pulling up at a stoplight and a Mustang pulling next to me, and I just get on the throttle, make the truck bounce, and get them to.
He was faking hydraulics.
No, those are the fat chicks.
That
in
was
the
good.
back.
That was good hydraulics. Dude.
The west side.
Yeah, that was the west side hydraulics.
I'd get them to think that I wanted to race,
That was just
and
me
they'd
with
take
your
off,
mom
and I
in the
just
back.
putt along.
Nice.
Those are the strippers he picked up outside of base.
How about you? How about you there, Music Man? What was your first hoopty?
So I have a real hoopty. I have a Datsun 210B.
Wow! What a photo!
A 1981, because some people do show prep, but I had an 81 Datsun 210B.
Nice.
Yeah, I had to replace the transmission.
Some people don't have printers, all right?
Every time Brian needs to print something, he's like,
I email it to Mike.
Old West Side's like, hey, my kid's got something. Can you print this
Look at
out
that.
for her?
Wait, did it have two different color front seats?
I actually hit something and ripped the door off the passenger
Nice.
seat while somebody. I won't say what it was because the statute of limitations, but I had a blue door in the end before the thing.
He had to put a blanket over there to cover the holes in the seat.
Right.
How about you, Big Bear?
All right, I'm going a little old school. I had a 1979 Ford Bronco, 32-inch tires, silver paint, black top, and that thing would pass everything but a gas station. had a 8-cylinder in it. Man, let me tell you,
That's white people problems.
How many cops chasing that thing?
quite a few. Most of them only caught me when I got home or ended up in a ditch somewhere.
They only had to wait till the next gas station.
Wasn't that what OJ was calling it?
It was a helicopter that followed him everywhere he went.
That's what he
Right.
got. Tony was actually driving. Bear was driving the Bronco.
Right.
The white.
Long before that happened.
It was a
though.
black Bronco.
Yep.
How about you, Stitch? What was your first hoopty?
Well, my very first bucket was a hand-me-down car from my cousin Enrique.
Just because his name was Enrique means this car is going to be horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Please tell me it was a Pinto. Was it a Pinto?
No,
Or a Vega.
A
no,
Gremlin?
it was a 1998 Volkswagen Jetta. It was all white. And I spent more time fixing it with my dad than I did driving
the
it.
Jetta.
And then luckily, I think I only drove it like maybe 5 times tops because every time I tried to get it out the driveway, it would stop. So finally, we got it fixed up enough, and because I had saved some money with my mom, and I bought another car, and I gave that car to my cousin, and it stopped in the middle of the highway.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I'll segue into my story when you're talking about middle of the highway. So I had a 1984 Nissan Sentra.
There you go.
But it still said Datsun Nissan on the back. That's how old it was.
Right.
But
Was it lowered?
No. It was falling apart. But I ran that baby in the ground. It must have had like 300,000 miles on it. But I had a Serwin box in it.
Yes,
Serwin box.
Vega.
I had a kicker bass tube and a Fosgate amp pushing that bad boy.
Man, all y'all had real
But I
systems.
didn't. But the funny thing is, I didn't have like rims. I had like the fake, the fake hubcaps on it.
Did you have the 7-Eleven spinners on them?
Oh no, I didn't have them back then. I wish they did, but that was '93, and
Remember in 90
I ran that car into the ground in '93, and it caught on fire on the side of the highway in New York. And literally, I just sat there on the side. I grabbed what I could, and I watched the car just completely burn to the ground.
And then the riot
Should
happened.
have cooked some.
Well, it was December
should've cooked
'93,
some
and
s'mores.
that was my catalyst for saying I got no job, I got no car. Hello, Mr. Air Force. I went down to recruiter like 2 weeks later and enlisted, and
the guy's like, are you here to join the Air Force? No, I just need to ride home. My car's on fire down the street.
That was the hardest part because the recruiter's like, you got to show up for, to show up in MEPS. And I'm like, I don't have a way of getting there. So I had to walk and take the subway or whatever, a bus, whatever it took to get there.
Dude, it's fads that are amazing. Because back then, '93, that's when, now the rims are all big. '93, everybody wanted the 13-inch triple gold Daytons.
Yeah, I had no money. I was broke working in a warehouse. So, but anyway, this was a fun episode as always.
It was.
Thanks to Dan and Walker and Ryan for making us some tasty, tasty drinks.
Craig,
here
don't hold up that drink.
At BlueDyer.
You know what? It's good.
Speaking of which, we want to thank BlueDyer once again for having us here. We really have a good time. I think Stitch is drinking a mojito and he's loving it.
Even
the dark mojito.
Even the glass that thing is in, Craig.
I mean,
you should hold it with your pinky.
Craig's drinking the most manliest drink ever. It's got a curled something in it, but
it's fizzy and it's blue.
But it's you know what they make
good.
They make great drinks at the taverns down here. It's always a good time down here when you come down here. The guys are fun to talk to, fun to hang out with. I mean, we know them, but you can come in here as a stranger and have a good time. But with that, we will say goodbye from the Level With Us crew. And from me, this is Spike.
West Side.
Big Sexy.
Hollywood.
Music Man. Bear.
Brother Stitch.
Yo,
And we're out.
I'm fat like that. I'm in like that because I swing like that. We jazz like that. We freak like that. We zoom like that. We out.